meal prep. So I'm going to say, first off and foremost, I think for me, I am the biggest convert because I didn't see the point in meal prep. I am a stay-at-home mom. I've got two toddlers. They are crazy, but I'm home all day. So I didn't think that I really needed to meal prep. And to me, meal prep was always so intimidating because I associated it so much with like those Fitspo people that are eating boiled chicken, broccoli, and sweet potatoes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So for me, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing that. There's no way. But if we kind of take the intimidation out of it and think of it as simply washing your fruits and veggies, that's meal prep. You're prepping your food. So if you think of it in terms of that, it really does kind of take the pressure off in terms of like, you don't need to be making this an overly complicated thing. You don't have to prep out every single meal. It really is what works best for you and your lifestyle. So the secret to meal prep, honestly, is meal planning. And that's probably going to be what I talk the most about because honestly, that is really the secret to your success. It's cheesy, but it's true. If you are not, um, oh my gosh, too early. I haven't even had my energize yet. If you are not planning, right? What's that saying? If you're not planning to, if you're failing to plan, you're planning to fail. There we go. It took me a second. And it's cheesy, but it's true. If you're going into the week without an idea of what you're going to be having for your meals or exactly, I'm so guilty of this. I'd go to the grocery store. I'd be like, okay, I'm going to eat healthy this week. And I buy all the fresh produce and it sits in my fridge and then it turns to brown mush because I have no idea what I'm going to do with those Brussels sprouts. Like I just bought them because I know Brussels sprouts are good for you, right? So honestly, you need to have a plan walking into the week. And everybody kind of has a different system that works for them. I will kind of go over my system. And this is really going to play into your containers a lot. So if you have not had a chance to watch Carrie's amazing call on the containers, I highly recommend doing so because it's going to give you a great foundation for what I'm going to be talking about next, which is kind of putting it into practice. So first and foremost, what you want to do is I highly recommend starting with dinners. That tends to be your most communal meal. Um, Yep, Sherry, I'm so the same way. Um, so with your dinners, I don't know about you, I cook for a family of four. It is the most frustrating thing to me when we sit down to have dinner and I get complaints because ugh, chicken again. Listen, I can eat chicken every single night of the week, but if you are not helping me plan out what we're having for dinner, yeah, you're gonna get chicken every night of the week. So, what I like to do is I found it works best when we're actually sitting down to dinner. My husband seems to, be able to have a conversation about food while we're eating food. And my kids, they get no say because if it's up to them, they're eating chicken nuggets and mac and cheese every night of the week. So, what we'll do is we'll sit down and we'll talk about, all right, what do you want for dinner the next week? And I'll just have like a notepad next to me. If you like to operate off of our meal plans, which I like to do, that we provide in the group, I pull it up and I can like throw out some ideas and I'll get yay or nay. And the amazing thing about those meal plans, if you have not checked those resources out yet, I highly recommend doing so because not only do they give you the entire um, ingredient list, but they also give you a grocery list to boot, which is hello, less work for you. Amazing. So what I like to do is we'll sit down, we'll plan out our dinners. And then I personally have a system that works really well in my house. You need a system. I'm going to say it over and over. We have a dry erase calendar for the month. And that's where I have everything going on. My husband works a job where he's on call 2 nights a week. My kids, they're still kind of young, but we're doing sports. We do a lot of play dates, especially with the nicer weather. So if you have that all listed out in your calendar, what you can do is now that you're looking at your calendar, you know what you got going on for the week. Nights that my husband's on call, I'm making those meals so simple and quick because I am not going to be able to make something overly complicated and keep my eye on my two kids that are going to burn my house down. It's just the reality of my life. When we have soccer on those nights, we don't do dinner because we're running around. So I know I'm probably going to make a shake or something like a sandwich on the fly. But I already have that in my head. So if you're looking at your week, you already are prepared for exactly what you need to kind of work around. That's where you get to make your meals, easier, a little more complicated if you like cooking. I am just personally, if it takes longer than 30 minutes, I am not doing it. So that's just how I operate. I am your easy, basic, simple girl. Um, So start with your dinners. And the great thing about that is you have your container counts. You start there and you kind of work your way backwards. And this is kind of where like the meal prep comes into play as well, is if you're a person who likes to eat leftovers or don't mind eating leftovers, um, you can say, okay, so I know this dinner, it'll make this much extra afterwards. So I'm going to have that for my leftovers for lunch the next day. Or maybe you're going to repeat that dinner later in the week or even save it for the following week. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can do this. But it really is just about kind of understanding exactly how much a certain meal is making, and then you can have that for leftovers the next day. The key thing, and again, that's meal prep. It's so, so simple, and we don't even necessarily realize it. So just really kind of sit down and plan out exactly what you're going to have for dinners. Then you can work your way back to lunch. If you are, I'm not a big leftover person, but I'm very basic. So I know what I like to eat every single day. It's pretty much the same. So I know what my lunches are, and then I know what my breakfasts are. So I have those container counts down pat. That's really going to be the best and easiest way for you to get used to our container system, is when you have it all out in front of you and black and white. From there, you're going to obviously have your grocery list, go grocery shopping. I'm a big fan of doing Instacart or like those online orders, because it's not less tempting. You like physically have to type in Oreos to get those Oreos versus just walking past them at the grocery store. So you're really keeping yourself accountable and on track with that. I think that's the biggest I have with meal planning. So honestly, I would say, oh, these bugs out here, that all needs to take place. It doesn't need to, but I would encourage it taking place a day or two before you're actually going to prep. So if you can, like, do a Friday night to plan out your meals. If you want to like take Saturday or even Friday night too to get your grocery list together. And then it's up to you if you want to do the grocery shopping. This is how most people tend to do it, because a lot of people tend to meal prep on Sundays. So Saturdays, I would say, you want to maybe go grocery shopping if you can, get all that done. And then Sunday's your meal prep day. If you do not have a bunch of containers, I highly recommend running to the dollar store. Get like Betty Crocker containers. They're all different sizes. They're perfect. They're amazing. And they're so cheap. So run out. You definitely want containers. Make it super easy and simple. Now, when you're prepping, you kind of want to have a plan a little bit. Just so you're cutting down on the time. A bunch of us in our group just came off of doing the Ultimate Reset, which required a lot of prep, and it was a headache. But I think myself, I was prepping for maybe 6 hours, because it was just a lot of food, and I was prepping for two people, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Now, again, you don't have to make it that complicated. If you are a full-time working person who is out of the house now, you can easily make your overnight oats if that's something you like to do. It takes 5 minutes to prep. And if like you're good with bringing last night's dinners for leftovers, then it's going to take you 5 minutes to prep. I mean, it really is all in how you choose to work it for yourself. Or if you're somebody that really does want to just make it so you are not having to think about food for the rest of the week, prep breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I've actually now, coming off of this reset, found really amazing habits in prepping my husband's breakfast and lunch. I still can make mine on the fly. But just doing that has not only saved time in the long run, but my husband is super, super guilty of running to like fast food and spending like $15 at the drive-through every single day. And that's not even counting like his gas station orders. So now that I'm prepping and packing his lunch for him and his breakfast, he has no excuses. We are probably, I'm not lying to you, saving probably about $600 a month just in cutting out all those purchases alone. So it really is worth it when you take the time to kind of just, and it takes me maybe 2 hours just to get all his stuff done for the week on a Sunday. So really, when you go into your prep, you kind of want to have an idea of, start with the stuff that doesn't require a lot of you being there. So things like washing your fruits and veggies. If you just throw that in a bowl, little trick is you can use 1 part white vinegar and 3 parts water. Measure that out and kind of throw that in to clean your fruit. It brings the flavor out so much, and it really does kind of clean it. It's gross even when you see the water afterward. But like, start with your fruit, because that's something that you can do. Let it soak for an hour or two, and then you can kind of move on to other things. Same thing with like if you got anything that's got to go in the oven, I will kind of throw it out there. I like to even cut down on my dinner time. So like obviously it's a little more difficult to prep your dinners, unless it's just you don't mind reheating stuff. I personally like to have my dinners like fresh and hot immediately. So what I'll do is if it's something that I can prep ahead of time, I will. So, for example, if we've been doing a lot of spaghetti squash lately in place of pasta, and I actually prefer it this way to prep my spaghetti squash a couple days in advance versus like having to deal with it right then and there. So you throw your spaghetti squash in the oven and you can walk away for 40, 50 minutes and not have to do anything with it. And then when it's all done, obviously you're going to shred it all up and then you throw it in a container. And the key to keeping things fresh is really just throw a paper towel on it. You can every day I would go in and swap it out just to get the moisture out of there so it's not so soggy. But it's a great way to keep your fruit fresh, your veggies fresh, and that's my trick with the spaghetti squash. And Autumn, for anybody who doesn't know, has a great tip with the spaghetti squash, which is throw it in whole at like 350 or 400 for like 40 to 50 minutes and don't even touch it. And when it's done, just let it sit to cool and then you can shred it all up. So I'm a big fan of stuff like that. If I can prep like a meat or something in advance and it's not a big deal. One of our meal plans this month has like Cuban sandwiches. So I prepped the pork ahead of time and we weren't eating it for a few days later, but just knowing that like that prep work was already done for me, it took 2 seconds to throw the sandwiches together and it takes the headache off of me. And I no longer have the excuses because let me tell you, I am the queen of I don't feel like cooking. I took the chicken out, but I'll find an excuse as to why we can't use the chicken. So we'll throw it back in the fridge and then it sits in the fridge for like 3 or 4 days and then it's no good. So I have to end up throwing it out. So really, once you kind of find your system with this, you really are going to start saving yourself money too. I mean, I'm sure not everybody is as guilty as me of like finding brown sludge in their fridge, like what the heck was this veggie that was in here? But I mean, it's just incredible when you really do take the time to plan. You are using every ingredient that you're buying at the grocery store. Nothing is going to waste anymore. And you really are taking the time for all of that stuff. So I'm trying to think if there's any other tips with meal prep. I really don't think so. I mean, if you guys have any questions, let me know. Let me see if I can pop up the comments here. 11:30. I can't find them on my phone. Mute yourself too.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, just you can unmute yourself too if you don't want to chat, pop it in the chat. But I think that's all really great. I think it's so like Bree said, for me, I mean, I've been doing this for close to 5 years too. And I was just like her, like I work from home as well. So I'm like, oh no, I don't need to prep. I can just, go as I go kind of thing. And I'm like, and you learn super fast that you get home and all of a sudden the crackers are sitting in the cabinet and they're whole wheat. Or, and we all trick ourselves into thinking, let me just dip it into a little hummus. And that doesn't count though, because that's not the meal that I was going to make. So I definitely 100,000% agree to anyone that's on here or will be listening that prepping in some sort of way without feeling as though you have to have every single container labeled and in your fridge. And some people do. And I think that's incredible. Is that realistic to everybody? Probably not. So don't equate meal prep with that, because then you're not going to want to do it and you're going to get intimidated. But like Bree said, if you have a few things made up in your fridge, we can all probably attest to that makes all the difference. Your fruits are cut up, your veggies are cut up. You have a couple of proteins that you can just grab and make. And then, probably a lot of people do make their dinners. So I think that's so important. You know what I mean? Like this isn't like, oh yeah, let me try to do that sometimes. This is the foundation of the program, is nutrition and meal prepping. So I just want to say thank you, but I definitely want to be quiet now and if anybody has any specific questions about storage or favorite meal prep items, just ask, guys. Just speak up. Don't be shy. That's not what this is about. This is about an open forum community for you guys to ask any questions that you might have, or throw in any tips that you guys love. We would love to hear that.
I'm always down to learn more.
This isn't a question, but for people who are using containers, I think like sometimes it's hard to know when you're prepping what containers to use for what meal and make sure you get them all in. So I was just going to suggest that in the, I don't know, if it's just an 80-day obsession or if it's also in Portion Fix. But the Times Nutrition, it's more for getting like macros, but it's a really good way to learn how to use your containers throughout the day, like the combination of containers for each meal. So if you're having a hard time when you're meal prepping, thinking like, well, when should I have yellows and reds and how do I know I get them all in? The Time Nutrition is a really good plan to follow to kind of get that down and understand how to combine your foods.
That is
Yeah,
an
that's
ultimate Portion Fix, Casey.
Okay, an ultimate Portion Fix.
It's an actual, you can actually follow that all the time. It's,
Yeah. Yeah.
I know in 80-day obsession, if you go to the, like, if you're in BOD, you can go to like the resources or whatever the tab there is. It's like you got to tab all the way over, but it does have like some plans laid out and gives you examples and everything, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But that is huge too. Thank you, Casey. Because yeah, I mean, it does matter when you choose to have your carbs. And I've actually moved away from trying to have my carbs with dinner because like carbs are your energy. So you want to have them earlier in the day.
Yep. Autumn suggests you don't have them after 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously Alana does too, at 2B Mindset. That's basically no carbs ever at night. So
yeah,
there's got to be some truth to it, although we all don't want to admit that. There is some.
Absolutely. I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off, Carrie, but I will say because I've been super consistent after we ended with the ultimate portion, or yeah, the ultimate reset. I've been super consistent with my nutrition and my containers, which I was not. And I hate to admit that because I'm a year and a half into this, but this is the most consistent I've been. I don't want snacks. I don't crave them. Like I'm full. I'm sticking to my plan. It's easy enough. I can walk in the fridge, grab something, and it's just amazing how I don't even want the treats anymore. These bugs. Anybody else got any tips or tricks? Questions?
I know I've been doing the at the store. I know I used to, when I started doing the meal prep and stuff, I was thinking, oh, I have to buy all these vegetables, chop them all up, all this stuff. I can't buy anything. But I've learned that if through the label reading and stuff like that, there are some things you can get that are already pre-done for you that are okay to eat. So like there's like these coleslaw type of salads that you can already pre-buy that doesn't have the salad dressings, and everything are all pre-packaged. So all you get is the already shredded up lettuce or whatever they mix. So those are my new thing, is to just get those because they're the easy grab to. I just take my green container, fill it full of the shredded cabbage and whatever else veggies are in it. And then I'm like, woo, I just got 1.5 servings of that. And then you can either make, or if you have buy the approved salad dressings, you can just add that and measure it. And it makes it super easy. Because for me, I know I get bored with food and eating the same thing over and over, but then I'm afraid because I'm scared to what containers go with that or how to break up, especially meals. When you go to make a new recipe, I'm like, well, what's the serving size and how do I make sure I'm not overeating that? So that has been one of my things that I'm trying to do better at, is making sure. But you don't have to always buy like the cabbage and make your own, shredded up. You can buy the prepackaged as long as that's all that it is and there's nothing else added. So you can find shortcuts like that. You just have to be aware of the ingredients.
Absolutely. And that's such a good point. I think we look at the containers almost as a separate thing, but like the containers are a way to make it like life easier for us. They are based in science and like nutritional science. So those salads that you're talking about, Sherry, they make like these chopped ones and they're so good. I got Amanda hooked on them too. And they come in so many different flavors, and I've measured them out into our containers. So if you ever have a question, like you just grab your containers and kind of measure it out yourself. But like they come with you get like 2 greens out of it, you get a blue out of it. Some of them will give a little bit of a yellow out of it. And then your dressing, whether you choose to use that or make your own, obviously that would be the better option. But even still, like their dressings aren't horrible. but like, yeah, make it easier for yourself. They definitely have options at the grocery store that you can look at, and don't feel intimidated and say like, oh, I can't have that because that's not, exactly fresh and I gotta prep everything. No, like a lot of food in the grocery store, as long as it's in the outer perimeter, is going to be plant approved. You just might need to measure it yourself just to make sure that you're really on par with the serving size.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Sherry. I think that a lot of people, again, get intimidated by, even guys, sometimes I'll even be like, you know what, I have a really crazy week ahead. I am not only ordering like what you said, Sherry, I'm going to order the onions chopped and my peppers chopped. And like, sometimes that's okay. Because it's either that or I'm going to eat all the crap in the house. I know I am. You know what I mean? I'm not saying every time. If you have time, obviously, ideally, you want to prep because you want to save money. You know what I mean? You don't want to have just a little bit of the things. But there's some weeks, like Bree said, if you're planning and you know what your week looks like, buy the hard-boiled eggs that are already cooked for you. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. I've learned that if I don't, again, I'll make the hard-boiled eggs. Like, that's ridiculous. I'm not spending $5 on it. I never made the hard-boiled eggs. You know what I mean? Like, we all know our damn selves, and we're going to be like, oh, we can do that ourselves. Yeah, but do you have time to do that yourselves? If you do, great. Make them up. If you don't, like Sherry said, sometimes it's okay if you know what your plan and your schedule is to plan accordingly with your shopping list. So if I have a lot of time and I can make up my hard-boiled eggs and a batch of tuna and all that kind of stuff, but if I know I'm making tuna, sometimes I'll be like, I'm buying the onions. I hate chopping onions. So I'll just buy them chopped up, and then I'll actually make it, or even celery chopped up. You know what I mean? Like, just really, like that's a great point, Sherry. Honestly, I think people really forget that, or you think, oh, there has to be added stuff to it. Like the pico de gallo that you can buy. There's nothing in it except veggies. So don't feel as though you have to go home and make your own salsa.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you really don't. Like, there's certain things where you can, frozen veggies are okay. A lot of the challengers that I talk to are like, oh, I don't know. I don't want to buy my, fruit or veggies frozen. Why not?
Yep.
Like, you can.
I do.
Veggies.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, my kid.
And you brought up one thing, Terry, that kind of made the light bulb go off here. If you're really new to all this and this is a really intimidating thing, like grab somebody else in here. And when Amanda and I were doing the Ultimate Reset, we were prepping together. Like we threw on a video chat and like we clapped our earbuds in and we did it together, and it just makes the process so much more fun and enjoyable. Especially until you personally have a process down, like grab somebody to like talk through the process with them and have fun with it. But you definitely need to plan time to set aside. And like Carrie said, if you tell yourself, oh, I'll get to it, you're not going to get to it. So like, if Sundays aren't good, especially with it being nice out, like now I'm going to have to change up my meal prep day because obviously we're up at camp. I'm not going home and inconveniencing myself to meal prep. So now it's going to be a different day. But I plan for it, and that's the biggest key to all of this is just planning.
Yeah, and like Bree said, those meal plans are great. You know what I mean? And we put them there as a resource. But if you have a busy week that week and you're like, oh my God, now I'm stressed because I can't get that. I can't cook that. Don't do that. Replace some of those meals. Make that a really simple meal, like Bree said, shakes, a sandwich, a salad, some hard-boiled eggs with some carrots and hummus. You know what I mean? Like, just don't overthink the process, and it can definitely change week to week, especially if it's becoming summer, right? So you might not be, and hopefully getting out of this pandemic, right? So we're going to have hopefully more fun and more time on our hands, but that doesn't mean that all caution is thrown to the wind and now, oh yay, I can eat all the things again and stuff like that. Like, you just have to have a plan. Listen to podcasts. Yeah, exactly, Missy. Like, keep it fun. Blast your music, like have your kids help you chop up some fruits and veggies. Well, maybe not that because my kids don't do that. But
maybe a finger missing.
Maybe give them a different something, but I love it. So like, it's just, asking the questions and not getting intimidated, I think is really just, the biggest part, especially if you're newer and you're like, oh my God, how do I even use these containers? It gets easier over time. That's the biggest piece of advice we could all say to you guys. It gets easier over time. I'm a simple person. I always will be. I'm not going to be making these extravagant, wonderfully looking, like Miss Casey over there who's always doing those great meals. I'm like, that sounds great. And I do them sometimes, but I can't do them all the time because all of a sudden then I'm like the Ultimate Reset was the perfect example. That was a lot of work. I mean, it was a lot, which was almost a good thing because I'm like, wait, if I could do that much work, I can do at least a little bit of work outside of that. You know what I mean? Like, and get all my veggies, get all my fruits, all that kind of stuff. So just take it in spurts, ask questions. Don't get overwhelmed by it. Stop looking at me. They want their iPads. Now they're hungry. But Bree nailed it. It's perfectly said. Like it's you got to do it. You got to, but by doing meal prep, it doesn't mean, oh my God, and that's going to take over my life. Like it has to be a mindset of, I can do this because I want to succeed. Because if you don't plan your meals and you just hope for the best, it's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? And you're going to get frustrated. You're going to get burnt out. Just doesn't work, and all that. I want to live my life. How many of us have said it? I have. Well, I want to live my life. I'm going to a barbecue. That's fine. Just know what you're going to have and base the rest of your day around what you want to have at that barbecue, and really enjoy that barbecue. You know what I mean? Like, and just kind of, again, plan accordingly, to what you think you're going to have. Most barbecues have the same stuff. Sorry. We're watching bugs on the TV, Casey.
Oh, yeah. I would add too that, when you're thinking about why you're meal prepping, I think your why is your most important, because it is a lot of work. But if you give yourself 1 week, like if you follow for 1 week, at the end of that week, you will feel better. If you're eating clean, whole foods, you're measuring, you're making a menu and you're following it at the end of the week. And then if you go back and you think about, why am I doing this? That's going to propel you to keep going forward, because you are going to feel better. You are going to see changes in your body. And if, I was just talking about this with my group yesterday. If you want change to happen, you have to change what you're doing, and it's just a reality. So yes, it's hard, but it's 100% worth it when you start to feel better. I just had somebody text me in my group that she started our clean week and her heartburn is gone. And so we were talking about, well, why is that? And she said, probably she's eating too much junk or whatever. And so 100%, there's a benefit just after a few days of changing up and eating clean and following a good meal plan. So yes, difficult, but absolutely worth it.
Absolutely. And it feels, even if you're not noticing those like physical changes right away, it's such a mental win to know that you like prepped all your food and you ate it. And don't get like overwhelmed or intimidated by it. When we did the ultimate reset, like we didn't know if we should prep our salads. Like it's so funny. You question like, should I do this? Is the food going to be okay? Like, I feel like I'm 30 years old calling my mom like, is this food going to be okay? Is it still going to be safe to eat? But like, have fun with it. Don't take it too seriously, because you know what? Like, yeah, you're not going to throw out a whole week's worth of food that you prepped. But like, if we threw out our salads that we prepped a week in advance because it was just soggy, and that's not for us. So you're going to learn what you like, what you don't like. And but it is going to feel like a win if you're sticking to that stuff. Bye, Casey. Thank you.
Does anybody have any specific questions or thoughts or anything, like, do you want tips on what to make for breakfast, lunch, dinner? Like I said, just speak up if there's anything that, Bree missed or we missed or anything that we did that you were hoping to hear. Just, ask up. And this is an ongoing topic, guys. This isn't like, okay, cool, now we know everything there is to know about meal prep. No. Obviously, there's always, we all learn more, especially like we said after that reset. Like I learned a ton myself. I learned how important it was because, again, like Casey said, feeling good. If nothing else, just having that, just feeling good and feeling proud and feeling, organized and on plan. And it just is a different, like, otherwise you're like, oh, like you're out of sorts in every way, right? Like you just feel like, ugh, everything's kind of just on a whim and everything feels unorganized and unstructured and just out of my control. You know what I mean? So I think even if food is the center of our whole lives, let's be honest, right? It affects our mood, it affects our day, it affects our social life, it affects everything. So if we can have, again, not feeling as though you have pressure to be perfect every single second of the day, to me, that's probably the biggest win. You know what I mean? Like that's when you found a lifestyle. Not when you found how to use the containers, when you figured out in your own mental ability to say, okay, I know what I need to do to plan and then also live my life. Especially now that it's getting to summer, we're getting out of pandemic world. It's not, well, you know what? I'm just going to eat whatever I want this summer. Do you really want to do that? Probably not. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to do that. You don't have to eat everything you want at every single meal. That's ridiculous. You know what I mean? So meal planning and prepping is just an ongoing thing and you're going to learn more and more, but just be open to it. Be open to learning more in your challenge groups, like what people are posting, what people are sharing, pull what you want. And, thanks. Yeah, exactly. Me too. Like, I honestly, like I could. You will not talk about this all day. And you hear him? You will not talk about this all day. I have like their breakfast plates right here. They're like, what they do? Sorry, guys. This is like recorded too, so everyone's gonna have the luxury of hearing Jackson. Sorry in advance to everybody who just had to hear that. Did you hear that? Now he's hiding. But anyway, so let me take a picture before we go. Or who you can take it. You can grab your plate.
The whole time. Brady, wolf it down.
All right. Brandy, Phoebe, Vicky, you guys gonna show yourselves or what? I'll call you right out. They're like, well, now I'm not. Oh, there she is. Phoebe, I saw you the whole time. Where'd you go?
She could be going potty.
She could be. I did take a one earlier too. I think I got a couple. And I recorded. Okay. All right, I'm gonna do it. So let's just do. I'll do a boomerang. Sorry, I'm muted, and you guys have to hear my crazy kid, but real life. All right, we'll do a boomerang. Ready? Ready? Do something fun. 1, 2, 3. All right, perfect. All right, well, thank you so much, Bree. That was awesome.
Yeah. Thank you guys for hanging out with me.
Yes. And if you guys have any questions, we're always here to help, but have a great
Absolutely. Feel free to message me.
Yes, thank you so much. Bye, guys. Happy weekend.
Bye.